Hey, welcome back to another episode of Before You Watch, the show where we give you a brief overview and our first impressions of the latest movies releasing. Hi folks, it's Nicholas Gurr, and today we're going to be looking at Five Nights at Freddy's the Movie, the latest film from Blumhouse Productions, the guys who made Bethregan, Annabelle 4, Rise of the Annabelles, Annabelle's Take Manhattan, and The Cocaine Bear. Now, while those were more original horror films that frankly scared the piss out of me, Five Nights at Freddy's the Movie is the studio's first, and hopefully last, video game adaptation. It's a 3-hour rated R jump scare heavy horror film with pretty much everything you'd expect from the genre these days. It's a pretty big step for Blumhouse, but the question is it any good? But before we get into the pros and cons, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room. It is a Scott Cawthon film. If that name means anything to you, you should know what to expect. There's a lot of jump scares, there's overly complicated lore that's hard to keep up with, there's dead children, Easter eggs, more jump scares, and a lot of extremist alt-right Christian propaganda. If you've played one of the Five Nights at Freddy's video games, you pretty much know what you're getting into. Now, to call this guy's brand of horror divisive would be a massive understatement. A lot of people like it, but if characters screeching at the top of their lungs while shaking at the camera is like nails on a chalkboard to you, you're probably gonna hate the blast of jump scares this movie throws at you. That's kind of the gimmick of the film. You got animatronic Freddys, and you should really just know that if Scott Cawthon's brand of horror isn't for you, you're probably not going to be happy because that's a huge part of the movie. In fact, I fucking hate Scott Cawthon's brand of horror. I hate it more than my 3 hideous children, and boy howdy do I have some criticisms I will get into later. But yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of people who start this movie thinking it's something, realize that it's kind of an extension of Scott Cawthon's other politically divisive projects, and leave the theater almost immediately. But if you stick to it, there's a lot to make fun of. The story is as dumb as you'd expect. It starts off with a security guard played by Mark Fishbach going in for his first shift at Freddy Fazbear's entertainment establishment, but he soon realizes that the animatronic Freddys get a little quirky at night, and that if he wants his paycheck, he must survive 5 nights with the Freddys. The film begins with the first of many musical numbers, which leads into one of my biggest problems with the film, the songs. Although a couple of them are kinda catchy, most of them go on for way longer than they should, and explain basically everything to the viewer like a child, instead of letting you take in the story on your own. The singing is also not really anything to write home about. The cast does a fine enough job with what they're given, but I think they could all definitely benefit from some singing lessons. With that said, I should probably bring up the cast. The voice cast consists of Seth Rogen, Gilbert Gottfried, Nancy Cartwright, and Sean McLaughlin as the titular 5 Freddys: Brown Freddy, Blue Freddy, Yellow Freddy, and Red Freddy, with special blink-and-you'll-miss-it cameos from Josh Hutcherson, Corey Delaminguez, and Willem Dafoe as the fan-favorite characters The Puppet, Balloon Boy, and Springtrap. The physical cast consists of Mark Fishbach, as previously mentioned, Nathan Sharp, AJ Pinkerton, and Matthew Patrick as the security guard, the purple guy, and the phone guy. Like with the singing, the cast does a fine enough job with the material, but about 96% of the cast kind of feels like they're phoning it in. As for the characters themselves, they're your basic horror film archetypes. Mark Fishbach is the crazy one, Nathan Sharp is the experienced badass, AJ Pinkerton is the obviously shady villain, and Matthew Patrick is the phone guy, and all of the animatronics act as the obnoxious comic relief. Scott Cawthon clearly wanted the animatronics to have the same dark humor and relatable personality of iconic horror villains like Freddy Krueger, the Leprechaun, and the Thing, but they all lack the charm and wit that made those characters unique, and they end up coming off as goofy and desperate. Not to mention the design of the animatronic characters themselves. Not only are they all ugly and look like shitty sock puppets, but all of them also have these almost blinding neon red eyes, which makes it impossible to take them seriously. Most of the film is that way. It's so desperate to scare the audience with annoying jump scares and monster designs that even a toddler wouldn't find terrifying, that it comes off as more silly than anything. As for the set design, it's about as lazy as you could possibly get, with literal cardboard doors and obviously shitty green screen backgrounds for when the animatronics are on stage and in the halls. Now, I'm aware Blumhouse is known for giving their movies comically low budgets, but it is painfully obvious how little they gave this movie in particular, especially considering the nobodies they cast for it. Whether it was because they didn't believe in the project, or maybe they just didn't have the funds to afford any amazing and expensive sets or actors this year, it's still not an excuse to put out such an unforgivably cheap movie. Overall, the movie is lower than a B movie. I'd consider it to be more of a D movie. With its hilariously bad casting decisions, to its kindergarten art class design sets, to the forgettable and by-the-numbers plot, this movie is an all-round waste of time. If you have even the slightest interest in watching Five Nights at Freddy's the Movie, I'd suggest you slap on an iPad patch, board a ship, and sail the 7 seas, because there's no way I can morally recommend that anyone pay to see this train wreck in theaters. Save your money, you'll thank me later. But that's what we got out of this movie. What do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you liked the video, click the like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, but the best way to see them first is of course the subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Nicholas Gurr. You can follow me on Twitter at NickGurr666, and we'll see you next time, right here on Movie Ranks. Right here.
You fuck my face.